who here has TikTok? And so if you are on TikTok, then don't you think the people that you're trying to reach are on TikTok? But we are so stuck in our ways and our mentality, and I sit with these execs and I say to them, you guys are leaving so much opportunity cost because you don't want to post and you don't want to commit to posting 7 to 12 times a day on TikTok, and you think that it's for this certain demographic and it's not. For a lot of people sitting here, property and development is freedom. And property and development is a way for them to get out of poverty, get opportunity, and really grow their companies. And so I want to just quickly ask, before I go into my presentation, who here is in business development, in sales and marketing? If you run a company, if you're in a division and you're selling to a person, you are in doing that. So that's essentially everyone. Everyone here is trying to grow opportunities within their company, within their personal career. Who here is going to retire? When I say retire, I mean they're going to crush it and they're going to be on a yacht. They're not going to be crushing and be on a yacht. They can't work anymore. They're done in the next 10 years. 10 years. So there's about few hands. The rest of us have got no issue. We need to be getting an R&D and be learning and growing and coming to these events like this. And so today I'm going to be speaking about, so the first thing when I come into a room like this is the picture that people think. They see a little baby and they say, I've been married longer than this kid's been alive. What am I doing here sitting listening to him? Okay. Then they start asking the question. And then the last reaction is they get very upset. And they're like, I've spent all this time and energy and money. Flippin' Louise, what has she done? We've made this investment. But I've been specializing in, number one, human behavior, psychology. At Henley Business School, we looked at how do we sell and influence people at a deeper level than just what we've been taught in our work environments. Because what I find is that specifically in this sector, we are so good at going to the bar and connecting with people and coming to events like this. But on social media and online, we are like a drunk guy at a bar trying to give a girl keys. We are nowhere. And so throughout this presentation, I'm going to give you some of the strategies that we've been using with all my clients to help better position your value propositions and be around for 3 generations to come. And to grow your opportunities both personally and professionally. And so we're looking at the age of change, leveraging technology to stay relevant and then also profitable, because at the end of the day, it is about the bottom line. And so something happened between 2010 and 2015, what we call the Great Rewiring. And what happened during this period is that social media and the internet has caused people, not only children, but people in general, to start feeling feelings of anxiety and depression and isolation at another level. Now, you may be thinking, what does this have to do with real estate, Marko? What we're going to get throughout this time is if we can understand how humans behave, we can develop and design our value propositions and properties in a way that best suits them, so that when we come into a room like this and we say, who knows our organization and our value prop, every single person puts up their hand. Because if I walk into a room and they already know what I do and how I act and think and behave, then I'm not selling. I'm figuring out what's the problem and what's the solution and linking those two. And so people have become I look at social media in general and a lot of your accounts, I've looked through the GDA, the Best SA, even Dilly, and we are trying to sell because we actually don't understand who we're selling to. And the content is so top line heavy and not actually with depth and understanding. And that's what we're going to go through today. And so you can see the percentage of anxiety and depression has increased by 134% and 106% over the last kind of 10, 20 years. Then the young and jobless, 50% of SA's working population under the age of 35 are unemployed. So the unemployment rate of age group, 60%, 50 to 24, 40% 25 to 34, and only 10% 15 to 64. So now that matters about how we position our products and accessibility in what we're doing. If 50% of the people we're selling to can't access what we're selling or don't have the right information, 3.5 hours a day on average, young people are spending on social media and Instagram. And so their lives have become this digital world where everything they consume and do and act and behave is from a cell phone. It's from the internet. So teens who meet up daily from 1980 was around 60% to 2015 and now being 2025 has gone less than 20%. So that encompasses shopping malls. You look at Ster-Kinekor. They are an organization that haven't adapted to Gen Z and haven't adapted to the thinking. Because Netflix and TikTok is where 18-year-olds are spending their lives. And yet most of our organizations and most of our personal brands, people sitting in this room, don't have presence on there, aren't sharing what they're doing. And so we're expecting these young people to commit to our organizations and have loyalty, but except we're not in their world. And so I really want to double tap on, especially in the South African market. I've been overseas to do talks and to engage with companies. And we have to get to every single person that's posting 7 to 12 times a day. So if I had to ask you, who's posting every single day on LinkedIn? Who's posting once a week on LinkedIn? Who's just consuming on LinkedIn? So there's 1 billion current active people using LinkedIn, and only a handful are posting every week, and only 1% are posting every single day. And so there's still an opportunity for us to build our brands and share our stories. And people think that it doesn't matter about our career to just consume. LinkedIn formed as a way to find jobs, and now it is a social app. People are sharing about their social lives. And so I've really tried to help companies understand, looking at the Investix and the Tiger brands, and both from an executive point of view, how do we actually start building brands that matter? And two is, how do we position our properties, our funds, our opportunities, whether it's our subsidiary businesses, on these platforms so that people are aware and can engage? Donald Trump is more powerful than the Republican Party. Who agrees with that statement? Mr. Beast, the guy on the left, is one of the most well-known YouTubers, currently gets over 1 billion views a month on YouTube. And he launched this chocolate bar company, and already it's worth over 1 billion, raised over $250 million. Why? Because he's got the attention of the consumer. He's got the attention of the person. So if we get the attention of the person, we get access to opportunities. I raised money last year to build out and productize what I do. How did it come about? Came through LinkedIn. Because one investor had continuously seen me share and execute and deliver and gain trust. And so when you're looking at from a stakeholder point of view and want to build a relationship and you've seen the specific division in Standard Bank deliver, you're going to go up to them and have that relationship and partnership already in place. And so we're seeing that within subsidiaries of these listed companies and of these holding companies where they're sharing and they're using the shared value ecosystem more and more through these channels. So 29% of Gen Z still live at their home, and we're seeing that number just increase. Whose kids still live with them? And when you ask them, get out there, go get a salary, go make it happen, it's much harder than they realize. Because number one, costs, inflation, interest rates. But two, they're sitting at home, not getting an understanding. And what we've done as parents is we've safeguarded them. And as schools and institutions, we've safeguarded their thinking. And so they don't have a realistic view of what the world is actually like. And so a lot of my work, when I work with graduate programs, is we do psychometric testing. We do psychology and looking at their self-awareness, why they're at this company. Most people, you ask them, why you're at a company, they don't know. And so looking at those questions from an internal point of view, but also when you come to, and I'll speak about mixed-use properties, a lot of our developments that we're doing now, we just did the At Sandton Hotel in Benmore. It's a mixed-use property. Because why? We realized that actually we can't get young people into one place and then expect them to go to a mall and to a different gym and to subscribe to all these different things. We need them in one place, one subscription, one payment, one property. And so thinking about your guys' value propositions in that way. So 78% of Gen Z want smart technology homes. They want technology to be integrated into the properties. And then mixed use properties, I just mentioned that is a major, when we look at Stellenbosch as a university, I've been doing some work with them. A lot of their students are joining, knowing that they've got a job lined up in Stellenbosch the following year or in Cape Town. So they're looking at a roadmap of long-term, no longer committing to short-term things. And so even like I've been doing some work with Advitech, all their varsity colleges, all their schools, we cannot just offer education. Education as a price is too expensive. So we're adding different segments to what they're doing. Who here uses WhatsApp every day? We all do. Whose businesses are on WhatsApp? But whose company have got an automation, client service, customer service on WhatsApp? One person. And I have a fight with a lot of teams and CIOs because they tell me, Marko, WhatsApp is personal on WhatsApp. But if we're all using it and no one's answering email, because if you try to ever reach out to a young person on email, you have to WhatsApp them to tell them to email you. They don't check email. So why have we got the psychology of being stuck in our ways when in an efficiency point of view, it's clear? Get onto WhatsApp, get onto text message, use automation, use AI. Young people are scared of confrontation and dealing with people. I mean, I've fought Celsi so many times to say, guys, you cannot expect me to wait on a landline. You cannot. I will not use your service. So what did I do? I went to someone else. I went to Cool Ideas. Now, Cool Ideas is this other service provider. What do? Everything's digital. I submit my documents digitally. I get onboarded digitally, and I add it in my home digitally. Not a single person that I touch. And so looking at automizing and digitizing what you guys are doing so that young people in general and people in the world are moving towards that. And so that's one of the questions I always ask is everyone's using WhatsApp, but no one's using it for their business. And no one's offering it as a line of communication. So Elon Musk has built this narrative where everyone wants to become an entrepreneur now. And unfortunately, we are not supposed to all be entrepreneurs. And there's timing. I speak to so many people and they say, Marko, I've got a side hustle. Who here has got a side hustle? Got an extra income from your corporate job? A lot of people, right? Because of costs, and we are no wanting to longer to commit. The average young person stays at a company for less than 2 years. And so they're spending 180,000 on average to get this employee, and then they're changing, and their retention is getting less and less. So 66% of Gen Z start to plan to build out a side hustle. Thinking about how do you integrate that into your guys' thinking in terms of part-time offerings. I do a lot of linking between developers and young people in grad programs and through universities. There's a whole bunch of young people with no skills, no value. They think that their age is their problem. It's not. It's that they don't have the experience. And so I always say education is not a substitute for thinking about your future. We're getting these young people who've got all these education and masters and doctorate degrees, but they've got no skills and value. And so when you bring them in, you're like, what am I paying for? You guys can't do the basic contractual work. You can't do the basics. And so looking at a training avenue that helps these young people get into a segment of training that's practical and real, and Henley Business School has got an amazing offering for that. And then TikTok. Whose business here currently posts on TikTok? 1 or 2 people. And so unfortunately, there's this misconception that it's for 12 to 18-year-old girls. And oh, my daughter dances and they use TikTok. But yet, who here has TikTok? And I see some middle-aged men putting up their hand. And so if you are on TikTok, then don't you think the people that you're trying to reach are on TikTok? But we are so stuck in our ways and our mentality. And I sit with these execs and I say to them, you guys are leaving so much opportunity cost because you don't want to post and you don't want to commit to posting 7 to 12 times a day on TikTok, and you think that it's for this certain demographic, and it's not. Because the best agents in the world are posting every day on TikTok. If you want to get if I've got 3 developers that I want to choose from, and I've got the best relationship with them and I'm seeing them every single day, who am I going to choose? Yes, a lot of people here have got 20-year-old relationships, and I absolutely get that. And I understand the value of that. But these young rookies are coming and they're taking market share, and market share matters. So we need to rethink about what is our market share and where is that going in the future. And that's what I do a lot of work. So 150% more likely to purchase a product or service if you're posting, 350% more engaged on your brand's physical store, 40% more likely to visit your website if you're posting on TikTok. So if you currently struggle with customers, getting customer acquisition, then you need to look at yourself and think, how do I get on TikTok? Something called social comparison theory, which states that young people make decisions not solely because they believe in them, but because the other people, their community around them, believes in them. And so we are no longer making decisions for our own good. We are so worried about what other people think that actually it matters more about influencing a community and not an individual. And so if you actually want to influence a young person, you've got to influence their community and the people around them, because that will lead them to make decisions. Then, I don't know if anyone heard of AI influencers? Has anyone seen AI influencers? So there are these CGI 3D generated people. The one lady in Japan's got 7.8 million followers. And what's nice about them is if anyone's ever used influencer marketing, it's terrible because the management of it. You don't know if this person's going to be reputable for your brand, what they say, what they do. And so companies are now using these AI figures. You can imagine if you had an AI person or an example of a company's mascot in a building or in your specific company, and they represent you, and they've got human personas, they've got a story and narrative, and they've got 11 times ROI compared to traditional advertising. But unfortunately, our egos don't let us use channels like this, and we'd rather spend 100 grand on a billboard because we get to drive past it. And we can see, okay, there it is. My clients are seeing it. But this is less expensive and more effective. And so that's the kind of the thinking. 44% have made purchase decisions based on what their influencers are saying. And 22% of young people report following more than 50 influencers. So there's this company in South Africa called Ubu. They've created this 3D virtual reality world. And companies like Nedbank and all these corporates are buying into it and creating these experiences where they're doing grad programs, where they're selling their digital assets. And so the immersive future, what it looks like in terms of youth marketing, is the broader VR market is currently worth around $15 billion in 2020. And by 2025, will be worth over $50 billion. So young people and people in general are going to these worlds. They're going to the land. They're buying assets. This is all going to be linked to Temu. This is all going to be linked to Cotton On, to Tiger of Sweden. Any suit you want to order, you want to go test it out, you want to check it out. Before I go to a mall, I want to actually go and experience what it's like in Dubai or London or New York. All these malls are going to have digital twins. And we're going to speak about that shortly. So why malls must adapt? Online shopping surged with COVID-19. E-commerce in 2019, 10.7% of the US retail sales. This figure grew to 16.1 in 2024. And then shopping centers adapted by bringing more experiences online. And so a lot of South Africa is still, I think we're always like 3 to 5 years behind the US, but now it's a good time from an affordability point of view to get in. Convenience, wider selection, personalized experiences, increased sales channels for retailers. And so the metaverse shopping is not just a trend, but it's a transformative force for retail. And so I really think start doing the investment now. What does this mean practically for you? Doesn't mean you're going to take all of this and spend 500K or a bar on this. No. Start doing the research and getting your brand aware of this, having the conversations in the boardroom. So then within the next 3 years, you guys can have value propositions and offerings that integrate with the software. So bring your mall online. What they do is they call these digital twins. So they create the mall in the space where you can actually put furniture in. You can have your retail people. You can have tenants in and test it. All they're doing is testing. And so a lot of malls have started to do this overseas and looking in South Africa as well. And then I want to quickly just speak about what happens with digital is we see people pretending to be people that they're not. And so I want to quickly read this. This individual was claiming to be a senior web developer at a blockchain company. And in fact, more than 80% of the 55% candidates on LinkedIn are presenting themselves to be frauds. They're not actually working for these companies. And so what we're finding is that what's happening with AI and that is people are pretending to own assets, to do things, to be people that they're actually not. So be careful when you're hiring people, when you're doing this research, whether it's blockchain or Bitcoin, wherever it is, make sure that you have a great understanding of what the stuff is, because unfortunately, it's too easy and accessible to change and adapt. And so I want to do a Q&A. I've got a bottle of wine, for the best question. And, before I go there, if I could just summarize my talk, for you guys, is understand who you're speaking to. Understand your mission, what you're wanting to communicate to the world, and then communicate it, because we cannot afford anymore, from a market share point of view, from a positioning point of view, from a talent point of view. Developers, and specifically in the property sector, they struggle with talent. Struggle to get talent, they struggle to retain talent. And so that's where the cost of not being on social media and letting this doesn't mean go hire a 23-year-old niece. You guys need to do the 25 hours of research so that you can judge your niece. Otherwise, if you don't have the framework and understanding, you don't know what's working or not. And so many, execs and CEOs tell me that, Marko, we've got all these social media PR teams and big agencies. We don't know if it's working. Why? Because they haven't done the research, or they don't understand why they're posting, what they're doing. And so, yeah, I'd love to take your questions.
Any questions for Marko? I'm sure there must be a few.
Go for it, sir.
Sounds exhausting.
No. My voice normally is high. Marko, the transition to digitalization full scale in South Africa, from analog to digital, and also covering rural, your townships, and the expenses that are related still to internet in South Africa are huge. What is the plan, to incorporate and bring on board everyone? Like you say, we're 30 years behind America. How soon are we is it limping or jumping forward to catch up? How long will it take?
So it was 3 to 5 years, not 30, 3 to 5 years behind America, just in terms of this whole adoption. And what we're seeing is more and more suppliers are coming on board, which will then bring down the cost because there's more supply. And so townships and people, data, airtime obviously being a major expense. There's a lot of suppliers that I've seen come into those areas now. And so the cost will just get lower and lower to be on TikTok. Now smartphones, back in 2008, you wanted to get a smartphone, you couldn't afford one. Now you can get a smartphone for less than $2,000. So the cost of smartphones, the cost of the internet is getting lower and lower and being adopted by more and more people. A lot of people in Soweto that I've been to, they've got TikTok. They're on TikTok. They're finding little internet patches. They're finding ways to access the Wi-Fi. And so the consumer is now being able to, and I speak about globalization a lot, because what's happening is companies are no longer facing each other on a local scale. It's a global scale. So you've got competitors coming from other regions of Africa, coming from London, coming from China, and you're having to compete with them. Similarly, you have that opportunity to compete on a global scale. And so that's what's happening. I don't know if that answers your question. A little bit.
Marko, very helpful, man. I think I have a two-part question.
Yes.
The first part is, especially with what was it, Chipotle, how they incorporated Roblox and stuff, right? I think my only point of tension would be stuff like restaurants and banks. They're able to incorporate these because, of course, you're going to start having people opening bank accounts at about 16 years old and such.
Yeah.
But within the property sector, how would it just be a matter of waiting until somebody probably comes up with a really great virtual viewing platform like they have in the States?
Mm-hmm.
But then obviously you'd have that, like the gentleman in the front was saying, you have that issue where if a guy is viewing in his house in Soweto, he doesn't have the VR goggles necessarily. So then you kind of have to wait another 5 to 10 years until it starts being rolled out. So how would one be able to incorporate that digital space? Especially in the real estate fronts, because majority of the people that are putting in offer to purchases I think the age has increased from about I'd say 25 going upwards. Whereas the Roblox and everything probably it tests better with the much younger generation. And then the second portion of it was, do we just, given all of that, do we just jump and we try to force all the social platforms like you said, and we don't try to copy your Ryan Serhants that have digital copies of themselves, and it's just a matter of just executing more posts online? I don't know if my question makes sense.
We'll get to all your questions. All right, that's why I leave a lot of time. But to answer you quickly, so all of these virtual 3D, you can access with your phone. So you don't need the headsets. So that's the first thing. And the second thing is, yes, you can go and use Ryan as a framework. So, and I'm trying to get people to stop thinking about social media for young people. Social media is not a young person's game.
Not even
Everyone uses social media. Everyone is looking. I mean, I've been doing some work with Born Properties. I don't know if you've been seeing any of their stuff, but they're going huge when it comes to social media and when it comes to this community living, when it comes to this mixed residential property, because they realize that people want to go to Stain City and Waterfall and access everything at once. They want to go there because their other friend and the minister and the person there is in that same place. And so they're buying because of that. And I think part of our development programs and plans must be a part of that. And so yes, get onto social media, use Ryan as a one, and just document what you're doing. And I would say is design everything. So LinkedIn is great for written. People can get the most incredible results by just writing. If you're not someone who wants to be on the camera, just write. What are you doing? How are you doing it? Documenting the development that you're doing. And so that's where I would start. And if you ask someone a video, then get on TikTok, design it for everything for TikTok and repost as much as you can. But just start with once a week. I mean, people don't even have their photos on LinkedIn. They don't even have a background. They don't even have a bio. They don't even have an about. The first thing I'm going to do when I get a call from an agent is I'm going to search that agent on Instagram. I'm going to search them on LinkedIn and see what does their portfolio look like? Who do they work for? Oh, they work for, Remgro, or, I mean, Remgro, I've been trying to fight with their executives because they're like, Marko, we don't need you. We all our stakeholders, all our relationships are done, except that people don't know what Remgro is. So no one wants to work for Remgro anymore. Moving on. Go for it. Yes, at the back.
Hi, Marko. How are you? Thank you so much for your presentation. I just wanted to ask, considering like I'm also a Gen Z, like you, I wanted to ask from your advice, having access to both like the elder generations and our generation, what would you say is like the gap and like how do we close it? Like what do the elder generations need from us? Because you hear like sometimes like people have stereotypes about like 2000, the people born like in the 2000s say, oh, I'm a 2000s, this and that. So I just wanted to ask, like from your point of view, with access, like now you even say like sometimes you fight with execs and this and that. Where would you say like how can we like close the gap and like what do we need like from each other?
I think you can really work on your EQ, and EQ being the way you deal with conflict, the way you communicate. I mean, when I review how young people submit job posts, they're using AI, that it's automated, they've got no special requirements or special submissions custom to that job. They only ask once. On a call, you jump on Zoom, they don't show their face, they're not looking professional. So like those basic things go such a long way. To be able to greet someone, to show respect, to ask how I can help, to be on time. When I hire people and when we look at if you're not on time, in fact, if you're not even early, it's minus points. You're gone. And so people sometimes obsess over the technical skills, but actually we're hiring for people as a person. What are your values? Who are you? And so I would really try and focus on that when looking at opportunities. And that's why I think I've been able to do quite well, because my maturity from an emotional point of view and a mental point of view is solid, and they can bring me into a boardroom not being embarrassed. And I think sometimes that's more important in today's age than actually your technical ability. Go for it, sir. Okay, I'm glad you asked the question.
Exactly what you were saying is you mentioned just now how many of us have a side hustle, and I have a life coaching practice, and unfortunately, I've seen who am I dealing with? Everyone 40s to 60s kind of thing, and I feel that there's a huge opportunity for me, nothing to do with property today, but to look at possibly expanding my relatability to the Gen Z and that type of thing, because I'm old and I'm a bit doof when it comes to TikTok and this and that. But the reality is that I have a different skill set that's come with experience. And I've actually just had a light bulb moment now. The last couple of conversations, I'm thinking, hell, that's a market that is burgeoning. They really, really need help.
Yeah.
If I look post-COVID, I look at, we follow all the trends and look at depression and anxiety levels at people of that generation. So I can add value there, but I think my value is more to create relatability and that integration into some of what we see as old school business, because there's a dynamism that comes with Gen Z that I won't say we won't be able to create, but that's really required. So
what's your name, sir?
My name is Etienne.
Etienne.
Yeah.
So Etienne, you know, it kills me when I hear people's stories like you who've got, I'm assuming, a lot of experience, amazing track record, but are not doing anything with it. And so it blows me away that why would you not want to showcase that? And why would you not want to tell the world that you've done it? But yet all these young people who haven't done the hard yards are the loudest people speaking. And so you gotta be able to have that relationship, not only with your young people, but with your current clients. Because like I said, TikTok is not a young person sport. The fastest growing demographic on TikTok are 35 to 55 people. And so by just optimizing your website, optimizing your personal profile, having your value propositions and offerings virtually, not giving me a business card that I'm going to throw away, automatically you enter a new range of relationship that creates competitive advantage. And so I hope that this presentation can allow you to go and execute and deliver on that. But I mean, just on that point, the fact that that estate still requires me to even have a physical driver's license to present is a problem. Yeah. If you look at admit, everyone's seen this QR code for getting into malls. It's seamless. I haven't used a paper slip. What do they even call it? I've forgotten the name now. A ticket. I haven't used a ticket for 8 months. Because all these malls and shopping centers we've just put in at Sandton Hotel now, it's all seamless. We don't even have tickets anymore.
There is, of course, a queue of 50-year-old women trying to work out how to use
Correct.
the app. But,
because why? They haven't communicated properly how to actually navigate this. Yeah. Next question. Go for it.
Wow, this one's for the wine. Sorry, Jean-Andre.
Yeah, so Marko, thank you very much. I think it was a terrific talk. And this one is absolutely for the wine. So just a quick question, and it's a little bit not off topic, but a little bit. You showed that burrito sales and stuff like that. What do you have any experience on? Obviously, that's a solution for the Gen Zs doing it digitally. But how does that materialize in their hands? Because obviously you need to eat the burrito. Do you have any experience of anxiety coming from that part where there should be actual physical interaction between receiving your product, for instance?
Sorry, I'm just trying to rephrase your question. Are you saying friction between the customer and then...
From a digital purchase to an actual physical person going into store and buying the process of buying.
Yeah, and just receiving their order. I mean, it's they want to do everything digital, which I understand 100%, but there's still a point where the digital needs to materialize.
Correct.
And do you have any experience on any friction points there where they actually need to sort of be physically there to receive a product or whatever?
Yeah.
In a human form.
Well, I mean, I think we look at how many young people don't want to drive anymore. They want to use Uber. And so if you're in a location where Uber is not accessible, or you can't use Uber, they're now going to make a decision, I'd rather not go there because I actually can't access. Or similarly with taxis, for example, And so security. So a big thing is security. The amount of people have said to me, Marko, I won't go to the store, or I won't go to this development, or I won't go to this area from a security point of view. So I think those are some of the considerations. But from a physical point of view, they still want to do stuff. Nightclubs, trust me, are doing very well. And restaurants are doing incredibly well because we still want that human experience. We still want to experience life. But I think it's the friction point of how do I get to that? So that product, if you take your product, for example, whatever it is, how long does it take me to actually purchase? What does your checkout process look like? Once I've got the relationship online, what is that friction point of checkout and accessibility? And then from that point, how much human interaction do I need to phone someone? Do I need to email them? From that point, do I need to deliver it to my house? Do I send the location? What forms do I need to have? A lot of them don't have bank accounts, don't have proof of residence, don't have et cetera, et cetera. So then what are you kind of offering from that point of view? So I think making that as accessible and quick as possible.
Thank you very much.
Cool. Go for it, sir.
Thank you very much, Mark. Actually, I'm so glad to. We are just passing by. That is why I came late. I've got a son who's so keen in investment.
Yeah.
In properties. What advice can you give him? This is my son. We were just passing. He's so keen in investment.
Getting into property.
Yes.
I would say go and work for someone. Find someone you have access to that he can. One of these people in this room. And actually offer real value, and not just can I go for coffee and can I actually take from these people, but how can I offer real value to one of these people in this room and work for the next 5 years, get experience, skills, build out capital, and then worry about investment because your son has got to build up capital and experience first before he can go into investment. So be a bit patient.
Any last questions?
Thank you.
That's a good question. Last question in the back, and then we must move on.
So I leave time for questions always.
Sandwiches are
12 seconds left.
12 seconds. Well done.
Okay, hi Marko. I just want to find out how can companies that own retail assets use metaverse shopping to, let's say, improve traffic, foot traffic in the malls, customer experience, as well as increase sales. How can they use it to their advantage as opposed to see it sort of like as a threat?
Yes.
Yeah.
So we've got to look at, so there's Web 3 and there's Web 2. Web 2 is the internet, website, social media. Web 3 is the metaverse. I think we first got to look at Web 2. So we got to look at, are your websites optimized? Do you guys have an app? What is the functionality of your social media? So look at those 3 categories first. Website, internet, app. Can I access? Can I get information about a product or service? I don't know if you've anyone been to Zara recently. When you go to Zara, you don't pay with a credit card anymore. You put the things inside, and then there's a basket, and it scans it automatically. There's no person. And so looking at like frictionless things like that first, before we're looking at Web 3 and metaverse and all that. From that point of view, I would look at Uber. I would look at buying virtual land, setting up a shop, and then driving social media and your newsletter and your community to those sources to build a relationship. It's all about relationship. It's all about loyalty. And so if you can access 500,000 people between the ages of 18 and 55 at any point of time and get a relationship and get them to come to an event, get them come to new product launches, that's what you want. And so all these channels is just a way of having relationship. Because we all are fighting for people's attention. Attention has become the currency. And so that's where I would focus is looking at Web 2 and then looking at Web 3 and building that relationship.
Okay, so who wins the wine?
Sheesh. I'm actually going to give it to this gentleman here. Etienne, well done.